This is the TSOM Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the TSOM Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to another intriguing hour of the Science of Magic, a program combining the science and magic of today's leading topics to co-create new solutions and promote evolutionary thinking. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring shamanic art. Shamanic art contains both science and magic. Colors, shapes, symbols, geometry, and allegory are combined to express multidimensional meaning that cannot be conveyed by words alone. Art engages not only the mind, but our emotional and instinctual responses, accessing the subconscious and imparting ever-deepening meaning. Shamanic art accesses the place between thought and concept, the spiritual realm, where all possibility resides. There are ancient forms of shamanic art, such as sand paintings, shields, pottery, beading, and weaving, that carry a frequency signature created by the combination of sacred geometry, color, and shamanic working, or magic. These are ceremonial pieces that can be used as wards or power objects. Other forms of shamanic art are used for divination, such as runes, and more recently, tarot cards. Divinational art uses a combination of metaphor and synchronicity to bridge the gap between conceptual and unified reality. This combination, when properly decoded, enables the practitioner to read the trends moving at the quantum level in order to predict possible outcome. How does shamanic art work? What can it convey? Is there a modern-day application for shamanic art? With us to delve into this exciting topic is Native American artist Robert Lee Taylor. Robert is of Blackfoot, Cherokee, Osage, and Black Dutch descent. His art reflects his spiritual journey. Being a self-taught artist, Robert has been influenced by many inspiring souls. Together with Lynn Andrews, he created and illustrated the Sacred Vision Oracle cards. He can be found on www.askart.com. Robert, thanks so much for joining us on the Science of Magic.
Thank you, Will. I'm glad to be here.
What drew you to become an artist in the first place?
Well, it was a strange road in the fact that I started out wanting to be a writer. And when I was in the military, I was stationed up at Great Lakes in Chicago, outside of Chicago. And at that time, in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a lot of underground newspapers. And you could submit editorials. And I kept doing a lot of that, and they weren't using any of it. So I started thinking, well, okay, I'll just do a little illustrations. So I started putting little illustrations and cartoons along with my editorials. And they never used anything I wrote, but they used a few of my drawings. And when I got out of the service, I decided that perhaps that's the venue I should go. And I delved into it from that point on.
Wow. What mediums do you use, Robert?
Acrylic mainly.
No, I don't mean the sign. Yeah, I just thought mediums. Not crystal ball, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you work in acrylic.
Oh, yes, acrylic. I always liked oil, but I gave up oils when my daughter was born in 1984 because I've always had the studio in the house, and the toxicity and also just the length of time for an oil to dry. I went to acrylics and never really went back, but I always liked oils, and for all the oil painters out there, I do miss it. There's something sensual about physically moving paint, which you do with oils, and the acrylics, they have such a fast dry time. You don't have that relationship. So.
Right, nuancing and all that sort of thing gets a little difficult with the acrylics, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, but I still paint in the same style. I still glaze and a layer and layer of just glazes.
Nice. Who are the, we have just a few seconds here, who are the most influential people in your artwork?
Well, the first one would be my uncle. His name was Wallace Hughes, who is a wildlife artist. And he's the first one at the age of 6 actually put the art bug into me. He taught me I wanted him to teach me how to do an eagle's head. And we were having one of our family get-togethers. And
well, we'll have to talk about your uncle on the other side of this commercial break. Robert and I will return shortly, so don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Our current episodes are internationally broadcast and aired daily through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. The X-Zone is based in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. In service to our listeners, prior innovative episodes can always be accessed free of charge on our website, thescienceofmagic.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Native American artist and illustrator of the Sacred Vision Oracle cards, Robert Lee Taylor. He can be found on askart.com. Robert, I had to interrupt you for a break just as you were about to tell me about your uncle that put the art bug in you.
Yes, his name is Wallace Hughes, and he's a wildlife painter. But at a family get-together, we always stretched paper across cardboard tables for the watermelon and to take out the horse troughs. And we were sitting there, and I asked him to teach me to do an eagle's head. And he taught me to do a simple line eagle's head. And to this day, I still do that doodling. But that was when it just the power that I noticed how people reacted to the visual art. And that's why I guess I was latent in that and trying to be a writer. But my uncle did that. And then after I got out of the service and decided I was going to go towards the visual arts, I went to two contemporary artists, one named John Biggers and another named Paul Pletka. And I saw their shows, one in Houston and one in Norman, Oklahoma. And I changed everything I did, and I've never looked back since. It just shows how art can speak to somebody and open doors.
What can you tell us about art and your spiritual journey?
Well, the first thing I use it to make, I think we all use it to make peace with the world, because I was taught, the greatest teacher I ever had was my grandfather who raised me, and he had a third grade education, but he taught me that we're all one tribe. No matter, we're all different clans, but no matter how you look at it, we're one tribe. And from that, I just extrapolated out to decide that through art, it moved me. I noticed how it moved other people. But I tell people, instead of actually saying I'm an artist, I build doors. And if I decorate that door just right, somebody will open it up. And where they go is the art, not what I put on that flat object. Where they go mentally is what art is. And that's what it does to me as I'm working on it. It's like giving, every artist will say a piece of art is like giving birth. You have to go through all the pains, and then and at the time of birth you have to set it out there and to see if it'll stand on its own. And that in itself gives you a journey of actually doing it and then actually the accomplishment. And so spiritually for me, it just takes me the same way that I hope my art will take somebody else.
You have to go there first before you can lead someone else, huh?
Well, but my journey will be different, and it will take me possibly to even a different location where the same image will take somebody else. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say that the art really takes place in the viewer's eyes. Art is always a collaboration. It doesn't exist without another person. So. And like I said, my grandfather taught me that we're all artists. And in tribal belief, and like I said, we're all one tribe. And I think that native art people respond to it because it's tribal, and it uses the same tribal imagery that we all inwardly will react to. And that simple motif of symbols will take us. I'll real quickly say the best way to put this was I was listening to a science program one day, and they talked about the new cave paintings they'd found. And the further back they went were the older, which is strange because it would be more dangerous at the time. But the oldest ones they found were nothing but geometric patterns. And what they basically said, close your eyes, rub your eyes, and squint real hard with your eyes closed, you'll see all these neon color geometric patterns dancing around inside your eyelids. And they call them entopic forms. But no matter what ethnic group you are, where you are in the world, every human being will see that same symbology when they do that. And that's basically human DNA, and in my opinion. And that's why symbolism with art, it just speaks and screams out for me to do it that way. And that's why I believe I tapped into, and it comes through that way. And like I said, we're all artists. I was taught that your body is your brush, the earth is your canvas, and your life is your painting.
Boy, if we looked at it that way and realized that painting is what we leave behind, we might be a little more cautious about our words and actions. Well,
that's one of the things we hope, and that's why, like I said, my whole career has been spent trying to say we're one tribe, and that we're all artists. And for people to remember, I mean, we come into this world screaming. Once that doctor slaps us and our lungs fill and we start screaming, "Look at me, here I am, here I am," we spend the rest of our life basically doing the same thing. Look at me, look at me. And if we want to have something that we have as a legacy, if you just think of your life as that piece of art that is your true legacy, then it might help you be a little bit more on the guidelines that you want to take. And that is one of the reasons that this the book came about with Lynn when she approached me. I was familiar with Lynn's work, and she could put words to what I was trying to say with visual symbols. And so the collaboration just worked.
Well, that leads me to a question I have, is which came first, the art or the writings with the cards?
Actually, the art. Lynn and I met in Santa Fe about 3.5, 4 years ago when we first met. And then about 3 years ago, she approached me because she'd come to the openings in Santa Fe, and she'd listened to me. And all my work starts with either a title or a story. And so at the opening, ask me about the art, I'd tell them about the painting. And she started listening to me tell my stories. And then she approached me and said, I think that we could work together. And she gave me carte blanche to go ahead and to do whatever paintings I wanted to do and give her the stories. And then she kind of edited through them, and we then sat down and said, this is the chapter or the storyline, the theme we want to go with. And I would tell her what painting I felt I had that went with that, and then she would look at it and then decide how to write about it. And that so she actually, I always like to try to tell people, if I'm a door maker, I decorated a door, and when you open it, you go into a room, and Lynn's in that room to help you figure out how to turn on the lights.
What does the art convey, though, that words cannot?
It's a innate reaction. We all have it to we're visual creatures, and art takes away simply the simple the definition we try to get. Once, as human beings, when we give something a name, we believe we own it, we understand it, we control it. Art is a visual thing that our brain may say, I'm looking at a butterfly. But hopefully, as an artist, you're hoping the person not only just sees a butterfly, because what you've tried to do is not paint just the butterfly. You want to paint the way it touches, the way it feels, the way it smells, the way it would taste, even. And so those are senses that are activated through visual art that you don't get just with words.
Mm. Do you set a particular intent before you start a painting?
Yes. Now, that's not to say that the journey on that decision does not start taking little side roads sometimes, and it takes on a life of its own. And that's when you. I used to laugh. There used to be an artist on PBS named Bob Rossi there, and it was always, we have happy little accidents. And those accidents do make you go around a corner and say, you know what? It's telling me I need to include this or I need to do that. And so, but the main thrust of the work always stays in there.
So, excuse me. So those side roads. Whoa! I lost my voice. So the side roads are part of the story, right?
Oh yes. They run parallel. If I have something that's taking a side road that's a whole different, like if I'm saying I wanted to say something about a relationship, and all of a sudden I get into something on the side road that shows some kind of combat or action, something of that nature, that's going to become another painting. That just gets stuck to the side on the notes. The sketch of it may get stuck to the side, and I go back to my main road, and I just get rid of that journey. It just has created another thought that will be displayed in another venue, on another piece.
Where do your images come from? I'm asking the tough questions today.
Well, we as an artist, you get asked that a lot, and it's hard to explain it. As an artist, art can be a very lonely profession in the sense that you're an observer, and you have to participate to get the emotional side of it. Then you have to withdraw and just become the observer to get more factual about it, and so you see the big picture. So my ideas and images come from just simply watching. I mean, human beings. My grandfather once told me, human beings will never cease to amaze you. And that's true. Every human being deserves a painting, mm-hmm. So that's where they come from. It's just the situations we find ourselves in, and that's why the titles, like a lot of paintings, a really popular piece I did a couple of years ago. The simple title is "Been There, Done That," and that's just mm-hmm. from you hear that and just think, okay, how can I display that? And so it becomes a challenge for the artist to approach that way, but. They all start with either, like I said, a story or a title.
Do you feel like you're in an altered state when you paint?
No, but I think when I start out, no. I think you do go into somewhat, I don't want to say a trance, and it's not automatic, but you go into a mental process almost like meditation. whereas you try to say, I don't want to, because it sounds so cliche to say that you become the conduit, but in a way you do. You hope that your hands are now just being there for the technical to try to transcribe what's passing through, streaming through your thought process. And that's where you get a lot of the side roads. But that's why most of the time the side roads are unparalleled, though, because you're in this meditative state on this one subject, and that helps when you start out with a title. You don't have exactly what you want to illustrate with it, so you're looking for the feeling. And I mean, it's like I try to tell a younger artist, if you want a picture of a rose, the easiest one thing to do is just go get a camera. But if you want to what you really want to do as an artist and a painter, you want to paint the way it smells and it feels, and that because that's what opens the door for other people.
So it's much more multidimensional, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. That's why I say you can only go. For me, I only go so far into that what I like meditation or trance-like state before you have to all of a sudden snap out of it and pull back to see if the road you're going down is the right road to get where you're wanting to get.
Yeah, because you end up standing at a crossroads, don't you?
Oh, you do at times. I've got a stack of canvases in the corner of the studio that proves that. back to back, because like I said, art can be a lonely job in that you spend so much time alone that you also spend a lot of time talking to inanimate objects like your canvas. So I have conversations with them quite often, trying to figure out where are you going and why am I here now?
What happened? I thought I was going this way.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you just went with it while the thought was there, but you have to pull back to see if you're being true to what you're wanting to put out.
Exactly. Well, we're going to have to take another short pause. Robert and I will return to our discussion on the other side of this break, so don't go away. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, where new and exciting things are always afoot. Don't miss the other fine shows and hosts on xzbn.net. You're listening to The Science of Magic, your resource for creative solutions in a changing world, thescienceofmagic.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Native American artist and illustrator of the Sacred Vision Oracle cards, Robert Lee Taylor. He can be found on www.askart.com. Robert, we were talking about the multidimensional aspect of art, and I have to say, as I look at your paintings, they're so multidimensional they make me goosebump. What inspires your symbols?
It comes out of the need of having to have a vocabulary. An artist, as a writer, you have the written word as your vocabulary that for people to sit and transcribe into different languages for people to understand. As a visual artist, as a painter, you have to put out a body of work for people to see symbology, to start understanding that that's your language, that the butterfly equates to this in your work. The keys equate to this. You almost want to put a legend with every painting at the bottom saying, as you look at it, this equals this equals this. But then you have to stop and edit yourself, saying that becomes a little preachy, because then you're trying to dictate where that door takes people.
Mm-hmm.
But symbology, that's why I juxtapose a lot of, I use native symbology and just everything from all the major religions, different ethnic groups, just simply to try to show that, like, I'll juxtapose a pipe to a crucifix. I'll do that quite frequently.
Yeah, I noticed that, yes.
That for the native, that pipe has as much sacredness as does the crucifix to a Christian. The pipe itself, and that crucifix also has a symbol meaning to the native, in that not only is it the original thought of the cross of the vertical reaching for the sky or the heavens, and then the horizontal, the plane that you're upon, and you're always trying to strive to move upward. Whereas with the pipe, means nothing apart. But when you take the stem, which represents the male, and the bowl, which represents the female, when they're united, it becomes sacred. And the center of the pipe, the hole that you put it represents the universe because it's circular. And what you put into it, the tobacco, represents all the physical world. And you inhale all of that, and when you exhale, the smoke is a visual prayer to go up and rise to the heavens. It's the same thought process that takes place when somebody holds onto the cross or a rosary and makes a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that when you juxtapose a lot of these symbols like that, it starts helping different cultures start understanding each other a little bit better.
And finding that place of unity.
Oh, yes, because it's hard enough for people to understand their own beliefs, because belief system is built on faith, and faith means there's no facts. So if you have no real fact about something, how do you, on your side, it's hard to understand somebody else's because you don't know what their language or their symbology is. So that's where my symbols come from, is trying to pull them from different groups and trying to show we're all the same. We have the same thoughts, aspirations, fears, joys, just expressed differently.
Beautifully put. What can you tell us about symbolism and divination?
I think that symbolism works the same way as all the visual arts for anything. It opens the mind. It puts a frequency into the brain that activates different synapses that we have that we don't normally. Without visual stimulation, we're not going to have. And without that stimulation, divination is not going to occur, in my opinion. You have to hit that frequency of streaming, of energy streaming, and it has to. You have to find a way to enter it to it. And I find that the visual arts is one way of working with that. It's the same as. I always thought it was funny that it came out really good when everybody started coming out with the magic eye paintings or the 3D, three-dimensional work, hidden objects in art. Whereas basically it's a great concept in that what you're always doing is you're trying to visually stimulate the brain to get the synapses firing that take you into a streaming of meditation. And that's where I think it's very important. We're visual animals.
What are you streaming? What are you streaming into? Where's the information coming from?
The universe is the biggest library we've ever had. I mean, every physical object has a song and a story and has something to teach us. I mean, and this is why symbols and native art speaks to people, because it's down to the grassroots, down to that simple idea that everything stimulates something in the thought process. And if you tap into this constant energy that's constantly going around. I remember that one of the best things that was ever taught to me also was that the concept of being born every morning and you die every night. And that energy, you want it to carry over to the next morning so you're born again. Well, that idea of that concept of that energy is that streaming. It's something, energy cannot be destroyed. It can be transformed, it can be moved, but it cannot be destroyed. So it's always there and it's always present. It's just whether you visually can see it or you can feel it and tap into it. That's the energy I'm talking about in the streaming. I Einstein once said the best thing we could do is if we could make the Earth go faster than the speed of light, we could all lay out in our front yard, stare up the sky, and it'd be the greatest movie in the world because we'd see the time going backwards, and we'd go all the way back to creation. It's because the energy is there; it exists.
So, do you set your intent by asking a question, and then the energy that you are drawn to in the visual art is the answer? Is that how divination works?
For me, it does. It has to be that idea or the concept that says, okay, this is the realm I want to be in. I want to be talking about unity or commitment. I'm working on a piece now, a commitment. And that's going to be basically, whether that'll be the title or not, I don't know. But what I want it to be is about commitment. So then as you sit down and you think that, and then you just start putting down a little bit of symbology, things that may take you there. And the first one automatically would be the circle, the idea of a wedding ring, of the no beginning, no end. And then you start thinking about that and think that's a hard concept to put out there. Well, that's when you start going into that meditative thought. And you just let your brain empty and fill in succession many times that's where that divination comes from, is that at some point in time, all of a sudden, the right energy will pass through. And you go, that's it. I've tapped into it. I've captured it.
So on the other side of this, if someone's using the cards, how can they interpret what they're getting?
Oh, using the cards would be the same as it's like word association. Like if one of the exercises is to every morning you can let's say if nothing else, you get up in the morning and you draw one card, and I'm just going to grab over here and you pick out a card. Well, I picked one that says creation, which is the number. You sit there and you go, well, what's that got to do with me today? I've got to get up, got to go to work. But it all of a sudden it makes you look at the image, and you know the story is about creation, and you can read the card, and it talks about how we create our own energy, how we create the world that we live in. We have to take responsibility for that creation, and we have to set it in motion. That is what the way it would work every day. It's a word association, but it's also image association. But another day you may pick this card when there's through another exercise. Instead of just doing the one card in the morning, you may say, I've got a major decision today, or I'm having a rough day, and you set out 3 or 4 cards, or so you put out the 4 cards in a circle, so you have them going in the 4 directions. And you turn each card up, and you look at what the storyline is for that card, and you ask yourself, how does that actually, what does that pertain to my life? And if one of them, I just pull one up, and it says destiny, well, we're all here trying to figure out why we're here. And that's in our everyday life, you have to shrink it down to a smaller picture. And that's where this comes into play, I believe, because it does make you start and think, well, my destiny is today I have to get up and I go to work. But is that what is fulfilling me? What is it that really makes my life worthwhile to me?
So when you're working with the cards, what dictates which ones you draw? I mean, is it just random? Is there some kind of predestiny to it? How does that work out?
Random. The cards you pick are at random. Now, my belief is that though, when you go into any ceremony, and that's what picking the cards or using the cards basically is, anytime you're going into anything where you're going into a meditative thought process, you're going in there with something like a petitioning. You've got a specific thought process that you want to address. But it's like anything else. Once you open up that door, that's where I'd start talking about that streaming energy. It leads to other side roads. You may think, like, well, I'm back to that, I have to go to work today. But what is it that I enjoy about my job, or why am I going to do this, and what am I going to do? What do I get from this? Well, you start thinking about, you draw the cards and you look at the stories of the cards. Some of them, here I've just pulled another random, it'd be patience. Well, that one would sit there and say, well, you have to be patient for your dream. That job that you're at right now may not be the perfect job, but you need to think about it's getting you to a means to an end. I really believe the cards are a stimulus for the energy that's already exists.
Okay. And so the energy that you access with the stimulus is based on what your intent is at the time.
It starts that way. But like I said, it can go other directions, because once you open your mind up, once you start ceremony, you're not going to come out of it the same person as you went in. And you may think that you already have a preordained idea of or predestiny of where this is going to take you when you go in, but it doesn't necessarily go that way, because we're back to the energy flow, and it opens up different synapses in the thought process. You can have so many buried dreams and thoughts that just have to be opened up. That somebody just has to open the door, and the visual stimulation can help open some of those doors.
So does it like knock you off your neurological rut?
It can, or it can fortify where you're going. If you can reach a certain level of you're already tapped into that energy, and you're trying to just refine it. You're trying to tune into a little bit narrower bandwidth, and you're focused, and that focus will help you make some of the major decisions. And that's where you really get to the in depth with the cards. And Lynn told me, Lynn had done a deck of cards before called the Power Deck, and that was about 20 years ago. And when she talked to me about this, and we talked about that, she goes, "Well, it's time for another one."
Yeah, we're going to have to pick up on time. We're going to have to pick up on time for another one, because we're out of time on this segment. We're going to have to take another quick break. Before we pause, let me remind you to check out the amazing upcoming Galactic Shamanism classes for both children and adults on findyourpathhome.com. Robert and I will be back shortly, so don't leave us now. This is The Science of Magic, your resource to altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric, working to create common ground for the betterment of our world. Join our email family at thescienceofmagic.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. What's up in your world? I always love to hear from my listeners. Email me at info@thescienceofmagic.net and suggest a topic or a guest that's on your mind. You're probably not the only one that would enjoy it. Our guest this hour is Native American artist and illustrator of the Sacred Vision Oracle cards, Robert Lee Taylor. He can be found on askart.com. Robert, I want to talk about color. You'd be a good guy to talk about color, too. Your use of color is both unique and really impactful. How do you decide what color to use?
Well, the first is the mood you want to set. Like I said, we're visual creatures, and we're manipulated visually when we don't even know it. Color is one manipulation. I choose color by whether I want the person to feel at ease with something very cool by using cool colors or underlined cool colors, or if you want it to be something to get a quick reaction, that knee-jerk reaction, hot colors. That stimulates the brain to go at a faster pace. And so that's the way I pick the colors. And also to make sure that you kind of balance it out. That just comes from composition. That's the technical aspects of the art. But color is very important, especially in tribal art, because colors are very representational. And we subconsciously automatically go there. If you, it's a good example. You see white, which you think of as a warm color, but you show the human brain when you see that white, you automatically go to the thought of something cool because you think of snow, or just almost nothingness, like the white snow you used to see on TVs.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also, when I first started out, one thing I'd read. There was a shamanic artist out of Santa Fe, and he just disappeared. I never got to meet him. The gallery that was representing him said he lived in the hills. He'd been in the priesthood and came out of it, and he just lived off up into the forest outside, the woods outside of Santa Fe. But he'd bring work in, and I looked at his work, and I finally asked. They had a major show, and it was the only show of his work I've ever seen. And I finally asked the director. I said, "Why do these speak so to everybody who comes in?" I've been watching the facial expression. He goes, Les Hawks was his name, and he underpainted every painting with red.
Oh.
And the human eye perceives red, even when it's got a coat of blue over it. What you visually, you'll look at it and you'll see blue. But the mind still sees the heat of that red.
Well, color equals light, and light equals frequency, right?
That's right. And I did that for a long time myself, and then I discovered, though, that there's a problem there, is that red will eventually surface. It will work its way to the surface through the other colors.
It will have its way.
Yes, it will.
Yeah. Many of your paintings have a haunted, dark, distorted quality. Why is that?
Well, dark. I've been talking. People have talked to me about the darkness of some of them, but people forget that the normalcy in the universe is darkness. It's those brief moments of light. That's why we call it enlightenment. There's a famous quote I always like to use of a Blackfoot chief who said that life is but a firefly in the night. And when you think of it that way, it's just those brief moments that give us that enlightenment. And dark, instead of being something to be feared from, should make us feel normal and on a normal pace, and something that's we should have a feeling of contentment in the dark. And then all of a sudden, excitement when we have those brief moments of light. And so I like using that for the painting, whatever the painting's about, and the figure or whatever the image I'm using in it, that's that brief moment of emerging enlightenment.
Speaking of eyes and enlightenment, I find the eyes of your subjects quite fascinating. Why are they often either closed or at half-mast?
The half-mast are usually because they're getting ready to be closing them. We're back to that, the idea of ceremony. When we go into ceremony, the human body becomes, the body itself is irrelevant. And what's taking place is between those ears and behind those eyes. That's where everything of importance is really transpiring. And that's why I use distortion, the physical distortion of the body. Sometimes you see it looks like the dissipating parts of the heads are dissipating. It's a way of trying to show visual prayer. And the body's being, the hands being enlarged. I use that. A lot of artists have used that historically, in that it's either to showcase what they're holding, what the hands are pointing to, or what's in those hands are very important to the symbology of the artwork of that painting. And also that I got lucky many years ago to work with Jane Goodall for a little bit, and discovering that it's one of the things that we were taught uniquely that made us human beings was that we have that thumb, and that so whatever who we are is what we create. We're back to that. Your life is your painting, and we create with our hands. And the feet sometimes are distorted to being very large to try to remind us that maybe we were physically anchored to the earth, but our thoughts should always be of the heavens.
I love the way a lot of the hands and the feet, or even the faces, are kind of gnar and old and gnarled up. What's the meaning behind that for you?
That we're back to that. I had an ancestor who lived south and had an ancestor who lived north. And somewhere at a point in time, they met each other. Somebody couldn't take the heat, or somebody couldn't take the cold, and they didn't speak the same language. But by looking at each other, they knew what tribe they belonged to. They had a good idea of what their standing was in the tribe, what their major accomplishments, and it was all about the accoutrements that they wore. Everything that they, the physical, visual look of the person was not important, because who you are your deeds, not by the way you look. And so the physical aspect of human beings has never enamored me. I use the body to hang things onto and to attach things to that tell the story of who the person is. Mm.
Much of your art is renderings of shamanic art, so it's art of art. So rendering is like your drums and talismans and headdresses and beadworks, feather fans and shields. Were these of actual articles, or were these from your inner vision?
Oh, no, a lot of them are historical, especially a lot of the shields. I went through a phase that I wanted to be very accurate, except when it comes to some of the talismans attached. I will not show this desiccated hawk hanging on a shield. I'll show the hawk as though it's alive.
Yeah.
Because to the owner, it is alive. Mm-hmm. Everything has breath breathed into it. There is life in everything, and that's just, we're back to that's the human experience. We're just a little bit far removed from it in some of our societies now, but we all react to it.
Well, do you think that your paintings carry power? I mean, we started this discussion about how the power objects are objects of art. What kind of power do your paintings carry?
Well, for me, they carry who I am and what my life journey has been. But the real power comes from what the person perceives it to be and what weight they give it. We're back to what art really speaks to is the viewer. That's who gives the weight that. And I'm hoping that I painted it into a diagram that it's a positive place that they're going. But that's the way, and that's the power.
We talked about butterflies, and they show up in your paintings a lot. What do they mean to you?
Well, first off, they're very good to show transformation, rebirth, regeneration, and fragility of life. But the other reason is that, like I said, I was raised by my grandfather. And the last time I saw my grandfather was I was getting in Tulsa, Oklahoma bus station, getting ready to go to boot camp. And he just told me, you're going to strange places and you're going to meet strange people. But just remember, everybody understands a smile and a butterfly. Oh. And like I said, he passed away while I was in the service, and those words still ring in my ears and ring true to me. Mm.
And how about the cracked eggs?
The eggs go. I stole that from the Renaissance art. It's just the egg was always representational of the Christ figure, the Trinity, or of the Creator, and the cracked eggs is kind of. I use a lot of the cracked eggs in the same aspects as a Persian flaw in the weavers, and the Navajo weavers. It's ostentatious of us to think we can reach perfection. Only the Creator can. So that little crack is to show that there is a flaw, and it's those flaws that we forget that's where some of the beauty comes from. We love to look at a crystal, looking at it in the light, but we forget that the reason we're seeing all those beautiful colors is there's flaws inside of that stone.
Well, isn't the flaws the cracks in us that let spirit shine through?
That's right.
Robert, this has just been absolutely fascinating. I've got a few seconds left. If you have one thing you want your art to say, what would it be?
I want people to feel like that they themselves have created it.
Oh,
That's
Robert.
what I want them to feel, because they are the artist.
That's so beautiful. And thank you for your beautiful, beautiful cards and your wonderful art.
Thank you very much.
Time flies and we're out of it. It's been wonderful having you on the show. Our guest this hour has been Native American artist and illustrator of the Sacred Vision Oracle cards, Robert Lee Taylor. He can be found on www.askart.com. This has been The Science of Magic. Join our email family to be the first to receive our topic-driven episode collections at thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, as you follow your vision.
One people, one nation, searching for